I've heard so much about you. So
I
basically,
hope good stuff only.
well,
Oh,
I'm joking. Of course, all good stuff. But first of all, TJ, like, what does TJ stand for? Let's even start with
Tolu Jacob. Tolu
that.
Jacob.
Tolu Jacob.
Yes.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure where you came from, whether you're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Jamaican, if
Oh,
you're Nigerian.
I look fully Nigerian. I don't know how people get that wrong. I'm fully Nigerian, born and
Fully
bred. Well, no,
Nigerian
I'm
guy.
not born and bred, but yeah, bred.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. So really, really excited to talk to you, especially about your journey, when you started, how you got into it. And then I'll throw a few curveball questions as well.
Let's go.
Because I've been through your profile and I saw a few things and I was like, oh, really? That happened? Like,
Okay.
really exciting stuff.
Sure.
So just to let the listeners know, Tj Atkinson,
Yes.
and you specialize in rent-to-rent service accommodation.
Absolutely.
That's how we all know you.
Yes.
So tell us more about how you got into that space.
Cool. Well, it depends how long you've got. So one thing you're going to pick up from me is I like to talk. I love the sound of my voice, not because I'm crazy or a narcissist. I just like to give so much, and it's usually in a short space of time. But I fell into property. So I had a recruitment business that was doing incredibly well, doing well in London, persuaded my business partner on no basis to move to Germany. So we moved to Germany because I was actually in love with a girl that I'd met, but I pretended to him that it would make sense to move there. So we moved the business there. It grew, it was doing incredible. We made some mistakes, which caused the business to fall flat on the face. And I don't hide that because I think it's important to tell people about the mistakes, because everyone always talks about, yeah, I'm rich, I made money. But what about the processes that got you there?
Yeah.
So business was doing great. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just two young boys who happened to be good at sales, who happened to be good in recruitment, and we grew it. But what you don't know is what you don't know. And those things come back and bite you in the bum. And it's interesting that we're both mentors. So we understand the power of getting someone to help us to learn the things that we don't know.
Because you really don't. Yeah. So go
Yeah.
on.
If you don't know something, you don't know. So you carry on living your life quite blindly. And the entire business came crashing down. I moved back into my mum's basement, into a garage. And she threatened me one day. Now, if you're a Nigerian parent, so whenever I put on my events and I get people in the room, I say, hey, who's a parent in here? Raise your hand. And they all get excited thinking I'm going to give them a gift or I'm going to give them something. And I say, I've got a big, massive bone to pick with every single parent in here. Because most parents still go down this route of my child has to be a lawyer, an accountant, or a doctor, or an engineer. And my mum came into the room after I had a big, massive failed business, and I'm sulking and crying. And she walked into the room, didn't knock on the door, just said, hey, listen, enough crying, get up or get out. And I was like, but mum, you're supposed to hug me and tell me it's going to be okay. But that was her expression. That was her way of saying, look, I've seen that you're capable. You've done well. This one business doesn't define you. You can do it again. So either fix yourself up, find something else to do, or just stop crying around the house. At that point, go ahead.
You're in that sort of place where you're like in the valley, weren't you? Where you just had this big high, and then you just found yourself right at the bottom.
It's a very, very difficult place to get out of, which is one of the reasons why I speak to parents when I have my programs, and I'm saying your job fundamentally is to support your child. Simple as simple. Your job, if they're showing prospect in something, not if your child is sitting around at 3 p.m. on a Monday and saying they want to become a footballer. If your child wakes up every single morning and says, Mum, Dad, this is what I'm doing, and they're showing you prospects, your job is simply to support them. And that's what my mum has done at every single opportunity, because I've shown prospect. Because she knows it's a horse worth backing. It's a race that I'm going to finish. So I started hanging around with one of my cousins, and he was hanging around with some Asian guys. We're hanging out in their house. They've got a big, massive £1 million house. I'm sneaking through their house thinking, what the heck is this? Wow, what is this? This is a mansion. And then I got speaking to the father, and I realized that he was in property. He owned about 40 plus properties in and around London. One day he pulled me aside and he said, I have an opportunity for you. I've heard your story. I've heard you made money. I've heard you've lost money. I heard you're looking for an opportunity. And I just read that book by Richard Branson. So he said to me, do you want an opportunity? And I'd read Richard's book saying, if someone offers you an opportunity, literally, and you don't know what they're, absolutely.
I say,
finish the sentence.
The answer to everything is yes.
It's simple, simple as that. And I've learned to adopt that in my life now. Before anything, I say yes. And as Richard said, I go and figure it out later. So he said to me, do you know how to manage properties? I said, heck yes. So I ran home, jumped on Google, how to become an estate agent. And that's where Airbnb came up. So I took the 20 properties that he had given me to manage and I placed them on Airbnb. Within the first month, this was 2013, 2014, within the first month, we had made around £30,000. I put all the money, transferred it from PayPal to my account, went in the bank, took out all the money, put it in my rucksack, jumped on several buses, went all the way to his house, and I said, bam, there's your money. He counted every single thing, took out £3,000, gave me 10% of it and said, that's yours. I said, pardon me? No, I don't want it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want any money from you. I'm just doing this because my mum said, I better do something or get out.
Yeah.
And he said something. He said, listen, this is your money. And guess what I did? I called my mum because I felt pressured.
Yeah.
I said, Mum, listen, I think I'm in trouble. I'm in this man's house. He's telling me I've got to take this money. And I'm saying, Mum, I think I'm being set up. My mum, being my biggest supporter, got on the phone to Mr. Yusuf. He said, listen, why are you trying to give my son money? Why are you trying to get my son
I
in
don't
trouble?
understand. You didn't even get the concept of getting an agent fee for doing all that
I
work.
didn't know because
Wow.
he further explained to me. The relationship with them, with the family broke down because the children had assumed I was trying to take over their
Muscling onto,
inheritance.
yeah, of course.
Exactly. And the truth is, I was, because I realized that. But it wasn't intentional. What the son had calculated was his dad was worth 6 million. So he had calculated that when the dad passes away, this son will get 2 million, the other brother gets 2 million, the sister gets 1 million, and the mum gets 1 million. So he had just been lax. He wasn't doing any work. And that's why the dad
about
gave him
managing the assets that they have. Like, I don't get that though.
so the son was supposed to be doing all of this, but
Okay.
he was playing around. He was just like, I'm going to inherit all of this. And I guess the dad used me to kind of show his son that,
Yeah,
hey, if you don't behave, this young man with the funny hair and tight jeans is going to come and take over everything that I've been working hard for.
So
the relation.
how old were you then though?
Oh gosh. So I'm 33 now. So 6 years ago, 20 something.
Oh, this only happened 6 years ago. Wow.
Yeah. So I fell into service accommodation 2013, 2014 or so. So yeah, it was an incredible experience because when they took everything back from me, it kind of deflated me again because it was just like my recruitment business.
Yeah.
I said, oh God, here we go again. I've just made all this money and then now it's disappeared from me again. But it sent me crazy. And this is a sign of an entrepreneur. You see an opportunity
and you take it.
Yeah. So I got on the phone to every agent possible all across the country.
So you're already doing 10x before 10x.
Oh, and listen, I think I created 10x. I think I created it.
No, you know why I'm impressed with your story?
Yeah, go on.
Because I locked into service accommodation in about 2011. So a friend of mine actually knew about service accommodation like 2009. He'd been asking me about properties and, we ended up being business partners and we actually, still work together.
Yeah.
But, we kind of just started doing service accommodation. Sometimes she'll call me, she'll ask me, oh, do I have a property? And then when I got into the property space, I was going to auctions, buying, refurbishing. That was my thing. But the thing with buying and refurbishing and putting and flipping basically is that you have the highs and you have the lows.
Absolutely.
When you're in a deal, you have no money.
There's no, there's no
like
cash.
Completely cash strapped.
Yes.
So I was like, there has to be a different way. So I then came across an estate agent and then he told me how much property was in like central London and it was like £2,000. And I knew already how much service accommodation was going for. And I was like, this is so ridiculous. That's how I found out about rent to rent. Because I just asked him, I said, you know what? I'll take the property off you as a long let. Don't worry about it. He was like, oh, what do you? I said, I'll find somebody to put in there. Don't worry about it. At 2,500 a month. Meanwhile, 200, 300 pounds per night. Like I didn't have to be a rocket scientist. So I now went for one of these big guru trainings, like about 4 years later, and they were talking about this amazing new strategy.
This new strategy.
New strategy called rent to rent. And I was like, oh my God, I need to find out what this new strategy is. And then I was like, oh, you rent a property and then you rent it out. And I was like, oh, okay. So all this time, I could have been
I genuinely thought I created the strategy. True, I genuinely.
Let me take you back, TJ.
Yeah, go ahead.
The strategy actually existed. Like I was in an Uber ride just about a few months ago before this lockdown. And the guy's telling me how back in 1980 something, he rented a property of someone and was renting it as because service accommodation has always existed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, Airbnb is a disruptor. They came and they really I'm pre-Airbnb. Like we had Home Away, we had TripAdvisor, random companies.
People don't know about House Trip, 9 flats. This is what I'm saying? So that's
Flags
how
up.
you know who the whole old school people are. All
I
these
know
new
we
school
do.
gurus, they're like, oh yeah, Airbnb and
Yeah,
Booking.com. I'm like, are you
no.
serious?
Do you know, I didn't even realize there was Booking.com for a long
Me
time.
too. Me too. Me too. I've only jumped on Booking.com in the last 3 odd years because
Yeah,
I'll tell you why it was crazy. All I knew was there were these OTAs, these platforms. I could put my property on, and
exactly.
then they pay me. Then
Mhm.
one day, one person who ended up becoming one of my business partners said, "Oh, I've discovered Booking.com," and I said, "Okay, I'll check it out." So I
Okay.
called Booking.com. I said, "How does it work?" They said, "Don't worry. All you've got to do is sign this form and send it back." I said, "What's the form?" They said, "It's a direct debit form." I said, "How does that make sense? So you
Exactly.
want to take money from me, whereas everyone else is giving me money?" And I scrapped the whole idea.
We
Not,
did.
yeah, I didn't end up using them for another year or two.
Yeah, before, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's been an interesting
Booking.com is
journey.
geared towards hotels. And actually, we struggled when we put, because we, by this point, we're used to HomeAway, all these different companies
And
who
you
are geared up for service accommodation.
absolutely,
Booking.com, we didn't get this. They clearly didn't get it for a long time.
yes,
Like, I'm not sure they 100% do, but the
I
bookings
don't
come
still
in
think
though.
they do.
The bookings, they do get the bookings.
Mhm.
But anyway, so basically you end up now in this sort of calling all these estate agents. And that's the point I was
Yes,
getting to, that you were amazing because you just took it and you ran.
yeah.
So,
I literally called every agent I could come across. The thing is, because remember, I thought I created the strategy at this point. I thought, hold on, no one knows about this. This man just happened to give me some properties, but no one else in the world is going to do this.
of
So I
course.
called every agent, but I didn't know what it was called. I only found out years later it's called service accommodation. So I'm saying, hi, I want to rent your property. I'm going to sublet it. Do you follow? I didn't know what to say. I'm Airbnb in it. I'm subletting. And everyone's like, what are you talking
What are you
about?
talking about? Yeah.
Hanging up. But it
Yeah.
took a year later, and then people started calling me back saying, hold on one second. Hi, TJ. I know you called us last year. You were talking about this property in Waterloo. I've spoken to the landlord. He now understands the concept. Do you want it? And I was like, huh?
Wow.
Okay. And then from there, I literally took on properties all across the country:
Wow.
Manchester, Birmingham,
Wow.
Liverpool, London. But it takes, this is what I say to most people, it takes spotting an opportunity. Everyone can spot an
Yeah, for
opportunity,
sure.
but most people don't take, they don't jump.
Yeah, they
They
don't
don't
take
jump.
action. Yeah. So
And
it's
that's why people are
impressive
where they
because
are.
you see, I think, and that's the difference between sort of that killer thing that you have clearly. I do have a bit my own entrepreneurial thing, but me, I was just happy with the have my few properties. Because you know what I used to say? I used to say with 5 properties. In fact, I was going to set up this whole course called "How You Can Retire on 5 Properties," because literally it was like 5 properties you can retire with
Yeah.
rent to SA. It's
Yes.
just like the strategy really works until it doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. I love that until it doesn't. And it, and you get
And
hit
then
in the
it's
face.
like it just
Absolutely.
like
Oh,
so
I've had so many. Yeah, please feel free to
no, no,
ask me the
no.
questions.
So
I'll tell you
so
them.
the question that I was gonna ask you, I'm kind of jumping all over because we're just going with it. But
Yeah.
how have you coped during this lockdown? Because for me, I had 7 properties. I was happy with the cash flow from them. It was just kind of sustaining the side
Mhm.
thing. So managing that was like, they announced lockdown March 14th. I just saw the writing on the wall. I was like, done. By this point, I'd already started trying to put some properties on the market to,
Okay.
to kind of mitigate against the losses. But how have you coped?
It's been, I've had some super losses, even in service accommodation, but generally in business. I
Yeah.
would say this has been one of the most difficult because when you make a mistake and it's by your own hands you've made the mistake, you can kind of rectify what needed to be done. But with this, it kind of hit everyone sideways. So we couldn't prepare for it as much as we should have. We did a number of things. Some other gurus don't agree with me, but I had to do what I had to do. So I didn't pay rent to some of my landlords by through communication. That's very important. Through communication, it's high. You can see there's an issue going on.
Yeah.
I've never delayed or defaulted on rent.
I had to have it done.
Can we, yes, can we find a middle ground? There were some landlords, I would say about 6 or 7 landlords, that we pay half their rent. So at least they could cover their mortgage. There were
Yeah.
some of them that we went to them. And this was a very interesting idea that one of my team that came up with. For some of our units, we had paid deposits. So we said, okay, look, you've been holding our deposits for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Is it possible to get that deposit out, use that to pay you for rent for this period of time,
Mm,
just to buy us? And we had a handful of landlords that came back. We had 3 landlords out of 40 odd properties that said, nope, we're not having it. You know what? If you don't pay, you're getting out. And I'm like, do you know what? Thank you very much for doing that, because your property probably wasn't even working for us anyway. But
yeah.
this opportunity has lost us a lot of money. But at the same time, I'm not bowing out of it, because if you're in the business, this is the one thing I spend more time explaining to people. You've got to be as excited about the downs as the wins. How dare you expect to have wins every single day? You celebrate the wins, but when the downs are down, you then back out.
Like, I'm out. Yeah.
Where's the lesson? Because we only learn during these periods. I've learned so much about myself as a leader. I've learned so much about as an employer. I've learned so much as a business person just in this period that I would never have learned.
Never have known, yeah.
So I had the opportunity to furlough my staff. I said, absolutely not. I've taken money out of my pocket to pay my staff. I've taken everything to just show them that, look, you know what? You guys kind of come first. They're going to listen to this, and they know, some of them know I dislike them. I'm joking. I love you guys. But it showed me so much about myself. We had properties that weren't making us real money. Yeah. And we've had to analyze and say, do you know what? This unit wasn't really working for us. Get rid of it. We've looked at our linen costs, what we're paying on linen, and said, do you know what? We need to half that. Otherwise, we can't use this company. But these are things we've been doing for 3-4 years that we never analyzed, but we've had to do it. We've had to cut our losses and say, look, let's go. I'm excited for the boom. I'm excited when the market picks back up. I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic, and I think there's an incredible opportunity for every single person who gets in, just like the stock market. You don't want to get into the stock market or get into an investment when it's rallied and it's already high. You're looking for that one opportunity for something to happen. You already know it's at this price. Once it falls, you jump in. And that's exactly how I see it right now. And that's why I think a lot of people the people that stayed in it, they're going to benefit significantly.
They are, for sure. Because in fact, what I was discussing this once with someone, and I was saying, if you think about it, in terms of social distancing, getting your own unit makes more sense than going to a hotel.
Absolutely.
So most people, so once it bounces back and people start feeling comfortable to travel, actually, there's going to be a high demand on service accommodation.
There's going to be a significantly high demand. Think about this. Number one, before hotels get back into full swing, they're going to have to spend more time, put more procedures in place, whereas we're still kind of under-regulated. We're ready to go. Ready to go. And this is the part that I spend more time, because there are naysayers, there are haters, and say, oh my God, service accommodation is dead. Well, in fact, nothing is dead, because I guess what's going to happen? Hotels are going to make a bounce back. The government is never going to allow the hospitality and the tourism industry to disappear. They bring in over 100 billion, I think, into the economy. Where's it going? It's not going anywhere, and we're just a byproduct of an entire 100 billion pound industry. We're here to stay. We're here to enjoy it, and we're here to make that SA money.
And it's funny, because up to before COVID-19 hit, I thought what was going to cripple the service accommodation industry was going to be regulation, that there was going to be a heightened regulation against operators that was going to freeze the market. Actually, we couldn't have seen this coming.
No.
And I always say this, you know how back in the previous Great Depression, where one of these, I can't remember which one of the billionaires it was, who was in the stock market. And he said the day he knew to get out of the stock market was when the guy who was shining his shoes
was also investing.
I was asking him for stock tips. That day he called his broker. I was like, you need to
get out right now.
And that's just
probably Warren Buffett.
That was just before the Great Depression. So in a way, service accommodation had become like this, like rent to rent had become like this beast. Like 2020, like it was about to take off, And then it's like, so I find that the market corrects. It's always correct. And guess who stays? It's the people that can actually weather that storm, that will stay through and then reap the benefits at the end.
But that's just like everything. Everything in life. It's the people who stick through and pass their exams in university that end up graduating. It's the entrepreneurs that ride the storm that end up being rewarded. You can never be rewarded if you don't finish the race. Now, of course, there are some people that had to bow out. I understand, because financially they couldn't weather it, and I get it.
Fair enough.
But at the same time, listen, there's only going to be a handful of people that are rewarded, and we know the people who they are.
And what I love, so I hate downturns. It's a difficult time, but you know what I realize happens? Your brain is like on fire. So you're constantly, because you're in survival mode.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey.
What? Okay, 1 second. Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, that was a really good point you were saying.
So So I think the whole thing with you being in that sort of survival mode and you needing to just think up different strategies. So it helps you actually reevaluate everything that you're doing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
reevaluate your business, reevaluate, where you are. And, that's why they say millionaires are really made in recessions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because, first of all, there's so many opportunities if you can get your head out of the difficulty,
Yep.
you know.
Do you know
So,
what's interesting? You say that actually. So just some reading that I've done on that. You mentioned millionaires are made or billionaires are made in the depths of a recession. And it's actually the thing that causes people to back away that they also utilize. And that's fear.
yeah.
As you just mentioned a second ago, when you're in that sort of environment, your brain fires up. It opens all cylinders and it's looking for a way to survive. And the entrepreneurs, we use that to fuel us. Whereas the normal person says, oh my God, I'm scared. Let me retreat. So your brain is open. Yeah, go on.
It's interesting. I think we all recoil. We all, normal,
Yes, 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 yes,
everybody goes
yes,
through that
yes,
initial like shock, and you all recoil. But then some people stay in that place
yeah,
as opposed to stepping it up and just,
yes,
you know what,
absolutely,
I need to make this
absolutely.
work.
And that's the difference. I think
That
that's the
is the
difference.
difference. It is. But yeah, great. So in terms of, okay, so now what are your plans for post lockdown? So
Mhm.
what are your thoughts about how you'll take the business forward, how you're
Okay.
gonna sort of revamp, because this is your space. So you can't
Yes.
just kind of bow out. I'm like, okay, well, it's
Hey,
good.
all right, guys. I would feel guilty if I ran off as well because I've brought so many people into this space as
Yeah.
well. So people are looking up to me and messaging me, hey, TJ, what should I do? And I'm like, yo, listen, we're all in this race together. I'm still figuring it out. But again, looking at costs, that's the one thing every single person should look at. We've probably saved an additional £10,000 a month going forward because we've been able to remove units that weren't profitable. We had some, we used to call them secret units, which is nothing special, but we took on 3 or 4 units that were never occupied, but we had them because of our strategy, which is a matter of we actively market to corporate companies. So
Okay.
Barclays, HSBC, and if you're pestering these big companies saying, hey, stop using the hotels, try us out. And then they give you one shot and they say, okay, hi, TJ, listen, we need 2 accommodation for our executives. And then you say, oh, well, I don't have any available. Then you've lost that opportunity. So we've got these secret units that are not secret, but we have them there for
Just
when we
keep in
market.
when you actually need
Yes,
it.
so we don't lose
So
that
you scrapped
relationship.
that.
We've completely scrapped it.
Those are good time. Those are good time strategies.
Absolutely. Right now, we'll be okay. If they come to us and we don't have the availability, we'll pass them on to a mentee or to someone else. What else are we doing? Renegotiating on every single one of our rents.
Wow.
Renegotiating on every single one of our rents. Some of our contracts even say, oh, after your initial 12 months, then the rent goes up. Or and we were happy because in good times, we'll be like, okay, we can afford for the landlord to get an extra £10 on his rent, which adds up to an extra £120 a year. But now, not going to happen. We've started the process of renegotiating. And I'm also seeing that agents, landlords, and developers are in a desperate space at the moment. Some of my mentees are putting in offers right now. We just put in an offer on something that was 1,450 and we've got that for 1,100. We've got another unit that was 1,500 and the landlord is considering £900. So these are the things now, and it's made us more brazen because we're now having to stress test to the 10th degree to make sure if anything like this happens again, then at least we're protected. So it knows if we've got to drop our price down to the base level, then we've already put a system in place. Right now, you can't play the game we were playing years ago. I never negotiated on any rent previously.
I even paid more. So there was a there was a flat that was like early last year, stunning flat, and I'd already seen the dollar signs, and indeed it made the money. So when they were saying how much, I said this is like £300 more than the going rate. They were like, but the landlord, I was like, it's okay. That's one of the flats I had to go because there was nowhere to do it. I couldn't rent it to. I couldn't like repurpose it. Like because nobody's going to pay the amount. So I could either go back and renegotiate with the landlord, who the landlord was already like, I don't need to, some of these flats, the landlords don't actually need to rent them out.
Yeah, of course not. It's probably easier to leave them empty.
Exactly. So for him, it's like, either get this rent or it's empty. It's neither here nor there. So, really, that's a good point you make about renegotiating all of your rent, going forward, because that then puts you in a good position for when the market does bounce.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess my own thing going forward is whether we have this sort of COVID-24 or COVID shutdown. Like, we don't know if something like this is going to happen.
You're
So
right.
we really need to protect ourselves against the downside risk of running this type of
I
business.
think a lot of people need to focus and get a better understanding of business.
Yeah.
Understand that, yes, you've got to pay yourself, but having a cash reserve, again, that's something that's helped us kind of float as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm extremely tight. My staff, my employees would say so. The only time they ever get a bonus or a treat is Christmas. Don't talk to me about
Of
anything
anything.
alternative, otherwise, but that's really helped us as well. So
Yeah.
we've been able to have some cash, which has helped us pay
Reserve.
some rent.
Mm-hmm.
Landlords that haven't been willing to help us out during
Negotiate.
this
Yeah.
period, we've had to pay it. So again, I think everyone needs to create a strategy that works for them.
Yeah.
Don't get too greedy. This is something I've been saying to people for a long time. People come to some of my seminars and they hear about service accommodation. They don't pay for any training or mentoring, but they've got the idea. So they
Yes.
think, oh my God, it's really simple, it's really easy. And conceptually, it is. Conceptually,
Yeah.
rent a property, put it on Airbnb, but that's not it. There's an
Yes.
entire system in
A
between.
whole bunch of things. Yeah.
Parties, escorts, prostitutes,
Oh my
fights,
God.
stabbings.
Don't start with that.
But you see the
I know
point?
for sure you've gotten hit by those guys. So I now
Oh,
have their
yeah,
profile.
yes.
And at some point they were very stealth, right? Where they would just come in. There was one that got his uncle to book the property because
Oh,
I was
God.
already looking out for their profile, right? He got his uncle. And then when they showed up, I was like, no, you're not staying in this
Yeah,
property.
it's not happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, experienced people like you and I, we can kind of prejudge. We can kind of tell a lot quicker than a newbie.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what experience is for. And I guess that's what we kind of teach people to
Yeah.
look out for.
Yeah.
But again, yes, is service accommodation a great investment? In my opinion, absolutely. I think
Absolutely. And I'm so
no, please go.
yeah. So when I thought about the numbers, at some point I actually thought, why even buy a house again? Like seriously, if you're looking at a cash
I
flow
agree.
strategy, like
I agree.
service accommodation is ridiculous. And when you think about it, like, you know, there was a property I was giving an example when I was going through one of the webinars where this property, to own this property, actually the property got sold in November. The neighbors to the property that I was controlling sold it for £1 million, right? Just over £1 million. But I was controlling this property. I got into that property with £10,000.
Yeah.
So that's 1%. Do you understand?
That's 1%. Yes.
Of the actual value of the property.
Yeah.
But I'm making the exact same amount as if I had spent the £1 million.
So I give this example when I'm speaking to people. Think about this. If you're in London and you want to buy a property as a traditional buy-to-let landlord, let's just say you find a property that's 300,000. You'll be lucky. You find a £300,000 property. As a buy-to-let landlord, you put down 25%, which means £75,000, and you generate £1,000 a month. Let's just say as landlords, we generate £1,000 a month. What about ground rent? What about mortgage? What about building insurance? What about agency fees? But let's just say we make £1,000 a month on 75k investment. However, you took that same 75k and you rented X amount of properties.
That's crazy.
So one of the reasons why I love the strategy is because I can boldly say that I believe, quite frankly, anyone can generate an income without putting down a lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah.
And that's why I like it.
And it's about your goals as well. You see, my own goal was just to live an okay life. So I was okay with my 7. They were doing me good, you know? I know some people that wanted to scale up. They went up to the 60, 70. Why not? Do you understand? It's all about the goals you have in life. So I'm property mom. I'm all about mom. I want to be mom. I want to be there with the kids. I want to, you know. So, but you have done in such a way where you've hired people, you're an employer of people, you're like giving back as well. So, you know, it's really about the strategies and what you want to do. But what I love about it is it meets everybody at their own level.
Absolutely.
I want to do it simple. I do it simple. You want to do it complex. You want to do it like
complex. Yeah, it's entirely up to you. The world is your oyster at this point. But the reason why that's possible is because there's so many properties available or suitable for this purpose.
Yeah.
So there's no shortfall. It's just how aggressive you want to be. And as you rightfully said, what's your goal? So for me, I had to form a team because I decided 2 years ago that I was going to travel every single month until COVID hit. And I've been keeping that up, traveling to a different country every single month, Barbados, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Mexico. But Uncle COVID came and spoiled the whole plan.
So speaking of, what the heck happened? Like I saw this whole thing about you almost getting kidnapped, and then like you were chasing some diamond mines. Like you don't already have enough money from rent to rent. You need to go. I've been looking for diamonds.
You know what? This was when I was running my recruitment company. Actually, this was it. So yes, Yeah,
Okay.
this is way back. I got excited. I started making a lot of money. I thought, oh my God, I've got to find a way to flip this money. How do I turn this money I'm generating into 10 times? And I assumed that's how you become a multimillionaire or a billionaire, that you've got to
Yeah.
take something that's working so well, take out the cash and go and dump it somewhere.
Something else.
Yeah, I went to Sierra Leone. It's so embarrassing. I went to Sierra Leone to go and buy diamonds, and it was a whole scam. And yeah. It's so embarrassing. But again, I realize, and I think I was talking to someone about this, ambition can cause you to be blind.
Yeah.
And most of the times where we
Yes.
make mistakes as entrepreneurs is because of just blind ambition, but also
Yeah.
it's a gift and a curse. My ambition is what's making me money. My ambition is what's turned me into an employer. My ambition is what allows me to live my life. But also my ambition is what would make me take every single penny I have
No.
and put it into
And fly
something
over to you.
without knowing what's going to
Yeah.
happen on the other side. So
Yeah. It's
that's
it's
just
a
life.
blessing and a curse, isn't it?
Yes,
So,
it
but
is.
it
Yeah,
works.
it is.
At the
It
end of
is.
the day, it's all about harnessing that ambition
Absolutely.
and purposing it in the right direction. That's
Agreed.
all about it. That's all it's
Agreed.
about.
Agreed. Agreed.
Good. And then the other thing that was very amusing was the story you said about an estate agent. Literally, I'd never heard that story before.
Oh,
Literally
yes.
moving into a property
Absolutely.
he was supposed to
Absolutely.
be managing.
Yes. So I bought a property in Catford, brand new property. Well, not brand new, but still new build. I bought a new build and I gave it to two estate agents. I said, hey, listen, I just need this place filled. Gave them both keys to do viewings, whatever the case. And then one day I find out that one of the agents called me and said, hey, I've just gone into your property and clearly you've accepted a tenant. Why didn't you tell me? Because it's embarrassing that I took my own tenant in there. And I was like, I haven't accepted anyone. I've been told that I've got a potential tenant who's supposed to come in at the end of the month. And he said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't have to lie to us. Well, either way, you should have just told us. So I drove down to the property, walked in, and the place is a tip. Remember, this is a brand new property, empty. I've only bought 2 brand new beds in there and a TV. I walked in and there's stuff everywhere. There are letters everywhere. There's clothes everywhere. There's a new mattress. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm panicking, thinking squatters' rights. I'm thinking, who's in here? Have I now broken the law of going into my own property? And what's going to happen if this person turns up? Am I going to get in a fight? Am I going to get killed here? And then I called the other agent and I said, hey, listen, what's going on? Somebody has moved into our property. And he said, oh, okay, I'm on the way. I said, no, what the heck is going on?
What's going on?
And he said, look, I'll tell you the truth. I fell on hard times, so I moved my family into your property. I think I've got the actual video. He said, I moved my family into your property until we sort ourselves out. And I said, that doesn't never make any sense.
That never makes any
And
sense.
his argument was, I had told him that I was happy to leave the place empty for 1 month until the new tenant comes in. So he said, well, if you were going to leave the place empty for 1 month, then you wouldn't mind. But yeah, we got into a fight and he ended up paying me for the 7-8 days that he had been there. I believe
So he was planning to just go under the radar and then at some
yeah. He was planning. As I said, I met his daughter because I said to him, you need to get out now and you need to get all your stuff out. But before you get your stuff out, you've got to pay me. And he said, well, how's he supposed to find the money? I said, well, I'm just going to sell all your stuff because he had literally moved everything in. I'm talking about his CD players, his everything. So yeah, he paid me 1,000 something. He got out, he called his daughter to come and help him move out. And I'm looking at the daughter, fully able-bodied woman. And I'm saying, are you serious? Yeah, why are you even encouraging this man? Why are you living in someone's house when you know this is someone's house? And then, yeah, he got out. I did say I was going to report him to like the estate agents and blah, blah, but I left.
But you know, you'll never do anything about it, right?
Yeah, I didn't bother. I just like, you know what?
Yeah.
And I said to him, genuinely, if you had said to me, you would fall in on hard times because I found all the documentation. I found a letter, I think from NatWest or whoever saying your house is going to be repossessed. So if you had told me, hey, look, I've got this person, they're coming in end of the month. Here's the contract, sign your part of it. Yeah. Can I stay in your property for a few days? Me being me, I know for a fact I would have said no problem at all. Yeah. The property's empty. I wasn't going to earn from it.
But he doesn't know that, you see. And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? That sometimes that's why people do these things under the radar is because they don't know that ultimately the person that they're talking to is a human being.
It's reasonable. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
but that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was.
But then moving on to, let's kind of take it back a bit to before you got into property. So you said you had your own recruitment business.
Mhm.
And now one of the questions I wanted to ask, because you're obviously like an entrepreneur type, you're an extrovert, at least the way you come across.
I'm not though, but
Okay.
I'm a mix, but go on.
Mix. Okay. Now, what about somebody who wants to get into property? Because a lot of property requires networking. I always say if you don't have the funds, then you have to meet the people and, convince the people that
Yeah.
have the funds
Give it
to either trust the funds with you for a joint venture, or they need to trust you with their property. Whatever be the case, you need to build that rapport.
Yeah.
So how is somebody who's maybe a bit shy, who's not as, extroverted, like doing the YouTube videos and being out there, how is that person supposed to cope in this sort of new normal where everybody's supposed to be like a Kim Kardashian in a sense?
Do you know what? You're actually right. Really good question.
Yeah.
I think you've got to recognize who you are. I think that's really important. Not everyone's going to be able to do a YouTube video. Not everyone's going to be able to put themselves out there. But you've also got to understand that that's where the money is.
Yeah.
No one is actually going to find you to give you money, regardless of your faith. So you can pray as much as you want, but God is going to say, I created networking events for you to go to the networking events. So you're going to have to find a way. One thing that I've started to teach some of my quieter mentees is Facebook advertising. That by itself has helped a number of them reach more people, sell more deals, network with people, because Facebook advertising is a way for you to do an ebook, create a small video within your own comfort and get people to come to you. But alternatively, the long-term goal is you've got to put yourself out there more. You don't have to do all the wild, crazy videos that I do or someone else does. Just stay in your lane. But money is at the other end of social media, and you've got to get with that.
You have to get with it. It's true. It's the new market in a sense. It's like,
yes,
if
it is.
you want to stay out of it, then be on your own lane. But
it's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. It definitely limits your growth. And that's what it's kind of like what I've been saying. So with the strategies, I came up with this 14 different ways you can make. And how did I find those 14 different ways? It was because of the difficult times in property. When I'm there, I'm in a project, somebody's not, I'm waiting for somebody to buy a property.
Yeah.
It's fallen through. My cash flow is just like, and I'm like, how else do you make money in this business, right? But every single one of them requires that you're out there, either meeting people, talking to people. That you kind of have to be out there in your own way. So
in your own way, right.
In your own way.
Absolutely.
So the point you made about staying in your lane, but also needing to adopt new technology and keeping up with the times, it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really good.
And then the other thing as well is understanding where you are planning to take your business. Like, so where do you, once we come out of all of this, where do you see your business going? Like, what plans do you have for your business?
Really interesting. January, I was planning to sell my service accommodation portfolio.
Wow.
Yeah, so not even January, November last year, up until January, I was in talks with people to buy my portfolio, which for me would have been really interesting because it was a weird concept. I'm actually selling on properties that I don't own, but I'm selling a business within. So it was really tricky, and I've had some very reasonable offers, to the point that I was planning to move to Atlanta. I was actually planning to move to Atlanta, and then Atlanta I decided not to. Went over there, and I was like, nah, this is not going to happen. So I decided to travel the world. So I wanted to sell so I could travel the world. And then some of my staff said, look, let's not sell, because if I sold, they would now be unemployed. So they all came together. 3 of them came together with their spouses, and they put a presentation in the office. They said, TJ, listen to this presentation. And I'm already laughing because I don't take them serious, because I'm like, I thought they were going to mock me, like how I give presentation. And they actually put together a presentation to say that they would take 20 of the properties and they would pay me back over time. And I was like, I would rather do that for you guys any day than actually sell it. So I guess that is going to be revisited later. But yeah, I was going to sell my portfolio and just travel the world and say, oh my God.
At the timing, if you had sold it in November.
Yeah, but I'll be laughing at everyone. I'll be like, ha ha. Told you. So yeah, as I said, everything happens for a reason. And I guess it makes me a better mentor. It makes me a better coach, because I can tell people what's happening with us, and I can direct them in a better, them better.
And you know what's interesting? Because I've always said, one of the times it was a difficult day for me, I said, so what do you expect? Like business, you got into business. I got into business in the last recession, right? And I pretty much just rode that upward curve all the way. So I was like, at what point in your business did you think you were going to have a downturn? Like,
Yeah.
at some point, you
That's
must
a really,
know, you
that's a
know,
really good point.
it
I think
is.
it's so important that people don't, smart entrepreneurs anticipate that at one point in your life, there's
Yes,
got to be a down, there has to be.
it has to. It's just,
It's everything's cyclical. So at one point, it's got to hit you. So I
yeah,
don't know why people get so, oh my God.
I'm
Like,
like in
and I'm
shock.
like, I get it, like naturally, because that's how we're defined. You're going to be in shock, but you should have expected.
Yeah,
That's why you've got to be able to prepare for it. So I
yeah.
talk about being able to see the future. And
Hmm.
that's the power of having a mentor. So I always give this example of, imagine you were walking around you're walking in the dark night and you're about to walk around a corner and there was an armed robber or someone with a knife waiting to mug you. But if you had a mentor, the mentor's job is to have gone before you. So that mentor will be able to say, hey, don't take a left because this is going on there.
Yeah,
Don't take that right because there are people who are going to mug you over
that's the
there.
whole point of the
That's
mentor.
so important to have someone who's already been there, done it, and most of the time still in it, because
Yeah,
we can guide you as far as we've gone, and it's
yeah.
still going to be 10 miles ahead of where you currently are.
Hmm.
So when people argue with me about mentoring, I spend a lot of my time battling online trolls saying, don't charge people for mentoring. Number one, I stand by charging people for mentoring because when you pay, as Lisa Nichols says, you pay attention.
Yeah,
I could give someone my entire training program for free, but guess
yeah.
what's going to happen? You're unlikely to
And
do
not,
anything when you
yes,
don't have skin in the game.
yes,
Simple as simple.
yeah,
And also, you're leveraging my experience. What about all the money I've lost in service accommodation?
yeah,
What about all the failures I've made? What about all the staff that have been crying nights when I've been crying and we're
yeah.
all crying together saying, how am I going to pay my bills? But there has to be a trade-off. And
Be a
that's what,
trade-off. And in a sense, when you get a mentor, it's helping you. So you know when they say you're standing on giants, on the
yes,
shoulder of giants,
shoulders, yeah,
it's kind of getting you that next level. So you kind of
absolutely.
avoid all that drama that we went through. So I look back and yeah, I enjoy my journey. I can't even, but I often think if I'd gotten a mentor, there's many things I would have
Yeah,
avoided along the way.
absolutely.
I'll give an
Absolutely.
example. Before I realized how to repurpose a property, like how you could go into a property, remodel that property, and then remortgage it.
Yes.
I used to just see properties and say, oh, it's a one bed. Oh, okay, I'll just buy it as a
I'll
one bed
just buy the,
and then put it on the market. Like
yes,
that's what
yes.
my concept of
And
flipping
you've missed
was.
out on, if you calculate how much you've missed out on, yeah.
Well, thank God it was on my like third deal that I discovered this just by overhearing somebody else when I was walking around and they were talking about what their plans were going to be. And I was like, oh, that's the thing.
So you're telling me you could take a one bed, turn it into a
Yes.
two bed, sell it as a two bed? Wait one
Oh
sec.
my God, that's the thing. And honestly, that was like a game-changing moment for me. It was like, this is a thing. And you know what you said about you don't know what you don't know. You really
Yeah.
don't.
Mm.
Like, if you have no concept that you could do that, you don't.
It's
So,
out of your parameters. It's
yeah,
out
it's
of your
the
of your
scope.
thinking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's the important thing about mentors is that a mentor would have just said, "Oh, look, no, don't buy that. Buy something else. Use your money
Yeah.
more wisely,
Wisely.
and adopt this new
Yep.
strategy or this existing strategy." And
Or your mentor would have said, this is going to happen when you buy it. Your
yeah.
solicitor is going to take forever. The revaluation might not happen as you want it to happen. And it's
Oh
the
yeah,
ability to manage
to
expectations.
manage
And that's,
expectations.
yeah,
Thank you. That's
so
true.
that's very true.
But
So
yeah, because
you did,
sometimes when you get into business, right, it goes well the first time. So the first few flips I did, they went through quite quickly.
yeah.
Then, so now when I'm mentoring somebody, I can say, well, you'll have a few good flips, but then they'll
Yeah.
flips and just calm down,
Yeah.
and be in place. So, but yeah, it's business is tough. Business
Yeah.
is tough for the
So,
faint-hearted.
so you said to me, what am I planning to do
Mhm.
next? So as I said, service accommodation has allowed me to buy property. But more importantly, I'm starting my first ever commercial conversion.
Oh,
But again, I don't hide it. I'm pooing myself. It's a new journey for me. But
yeah,
again, the fear is what's pushing me. I'm saying once I do this and I do this conversion of two houses, then once I kind of clock this, I'm moving on to bigger things.
yeah,
That's why I always push people, take action, try, fail, do whatever, so that you can kind of say, I didn't die.
yeah,
I kind of made it through, so I can go to the next level. But
yeah,
we're all battling with that because our brain naturally is designed to protect us. So
yeah.
when you want to break out your comfort zone, your brain is saying, don't do it, because
Do it. Yeah,
what if that happened? What if that happened? And
yeah,
once you go past it, your brain then says, oh, okay, we didn't actually die. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to permit you to do a bigger one, to do a bigger development.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited about. And as I
That's
said,
amazing.
just having faith, I think, is probably the most important thing.
So, but it's interesting because I like the fact that your journey is taking you this way. So, how much did you start to get in? Because this is the whole point I'm saying about people getting
Good question.
how much did you start to get even into service accommodation at the beginning?
Okay,
Um,
so my first landlord that gave me an opportunity was, I don't know if you know this area, Old Kent Road.
yeah, I bought my
Okay.
first property.
Oh, okay. So it was a block of flats, council estate in Old Kent Road. The landlord had 2 properties. I took on a job as his cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I had no money. I said, listen, I haven't got any money. I want to rent your property, because remember, I didn't know what I was saying. I took on a job as his cleaner in exchange for me to rent his property. That's how I actually made, I would say, the first £1,000 or so in
Oh,
service accommodation. Yeah, so a guy called, surname was Rahman. I can't remember his first name now. But he said, look, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, if you paint the property, the boiler doesn't work. So it was a rubbish property. The boiler doesn't work. It was so embarrassing that I was too embarrassed to meet my guest to check in. So that's how I discovered about the lockbox. So when you're searching for something, I
yes.
said, what am I going to do? This man's given me an opportunity. I get to clean his house, but he said, if I paint the property, then I can rent that property and then I can pay him a month later. So I didn't want to let the opportunity go. So I took on the property, and I'm saying, if a guest meets me here, they're going to walk around the house and say, this place is not nice. And I'm going to have to face them and be embarrassed. So I discovered that you could buy a lockbox. And I drilled one into the wall.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
they complain to the boss.
yeah, they can complain. Exactly.
That's
Make
terrible.
your complaint, but you can't do that now. But if I could show you just on my phone, I don't know if you can see it. So my phone, if you can see just there,
Okay.
do not disturb sign. So since I think 4 years now or 3
Yeah.
years now, I cannot hear my phone ring. I think I've got some form of PTSD,
Yes.
because
No,
when you
don't
do
worry.
everything yourself,
Yeah.
so from
The
people
business does that to you.
complaining,
Yes.
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 So now
You're
my
always
phone,
in this
I'm jumpy.
heightened, yes. Your
Yes,
phone rings, you're like, oh
yes.
gosh, what is it? Yeah.
Absolutely. What is it? So I remember the time where I knew I had to start hiring staff, and it was a
Yeah.
very funny incident. I was daydreaming. So I was asleep, but because you start panicking, saying, hold on, is someone supposed to be checking in? Is this person
Yes.
checked out?
Yeah.
What's going on here? And then I remember laughing to myself, saying, TJ, don't worry, this is 4 a.m. No one's coming. And then I rolled off my bed and fell on the floor. And I was like, okay, you need
Now
to
I need
find
to.
a channel. And remember, I didn't know what channel managers were at
Yeah.
that moment.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was using pure Excel spreadsheet
Yes.
through Dropbox. And so when I fell off and I stayed on the floor laughing, saying something needs to change.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any sleep. I'm nervous. Has the guest, because you will get it and people will get it. Guests lock themselves out. They go clubbing. It's 3 a.m. Hello, hi. Sorry, I've lost the key. What do you want me to do? But again, now I realized over time that customer service isn't my strong point. You can't do everything in your business.
Yes, you can't.
That's why I had to hire out, because someone might call me, hi, TJ, sorry, yeah, it's 3 a.m. and we're lost. And I'm like, bro, I'm in bed.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Let
again, you
somebody else
realize
handle
over
that.
time, yeah, I can't do everything in my
You
business. And
can't.
that forced me to grow.
And that's the key thing about business anyways, that you have to outsource these things. And
Absolutely.
interestingly enough, because you can't be a jack of all trades, things fall over. So, and I always have to tell this to myself, because I have that natural tendency as well
Me
to
too.
want to do everything myself. But actually, when you now hire people, they end up being better than you at that thing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's what they're skilled to do, right? So, but it's just a mindset, as always. It's a
But
mindset.
I guess again, it comes from a scarcity place where you want to keep as much money as possible.
Yes.
But the reality is, you're actually losing money if you calculate the amount of times. As I said, I would jump on a bus with a rucksack to go and clean an apartment because I wanted to keep every penny. I cleaned up until we got to about 15 or 20 properties.
That's
I
just crazy.
cleaned.
That is
Literally
crazy.
traveling from Old Kent Road to Elephant and Castle to Maidavale to Waterloo to
Oh,
Peckham Rye. My back still hurts up until today. I bought 2 camping rucksacks from eBay, stuffed it with linen.
no, but it's a scarcity mentality. It
It
is,
is.
and
It absolutely is.
we need to get out of that place, because
Yes.
I know when I started, I had it for sure, but over time, you now realize, well, you've made so much. Like, I don't understand. Like, just give. So at some point, it was actually, now I tipped over to the other end. It was almost like, you know what? Anything that can be outsourced, let's just.
Oh, okay. No, so they got you. Yeah, they've got you. I'm
Also,
still.
the industry has changed a lot, hasn't it? Like, there's an app and there's a person for everything now.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
So
Life is easier now.
yes, it's a lot easier.
Yes.
But yeah, but it's been great kind of knowing about your journey
Thank
and
you so
hearing
much.
where you're going. And now you're going into property. So this is the point I was trying to make, is that you can start with something small. You know, you're
Yeah.
starting from like really at the bottom, getting the
Yes.
first rent to rent, climbing all the way, hard work, and now
Yeah.
you're getting into property investing, and that's
Yeah.
my whole point.
Yeah.
But you can start with zero and get into property. Like you
Yeah.
don't have to have that big deposit to get into, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people online, they say, oh, well, rent to rent and rent to service accommodation. Oh, you're not a real landlord. You're not a real property investor. And you know what? Who
That's
cares what the title is? The fact is, I'm. This is why I love teaching people this specific
Mhm.
strategy. It's not about how much money you're going to make. It's about broadening your
Yes.
horizons. Most people don't even know that they can even generate money from property.
From
They
property.
don't know that it's possible to
Yes.
actually get into it. So if rent to rent allows you to whet your appetite and say, hold on 1 second,
Yeah.
I can make some money here, and you make some money, then you build up on it, you get your first buy to let, you get your
Yeah.
second one, you go on to development. All that's happened is rent to rent or service
Yeah.
accommodation brought you in. And
Yes.
that's it.
And
Most
I
people,
would say that property is a long game. So, you know,
yes, it is. Yeah,
it is a long game. So you start, and the same people, it's funny, the same person you got your rent to rent, your first rent to rent from, can end up being your joint venture partner down because of the
absolutely. Yes.
relationships that you built. So it's really property. It's, you know, it's really people and property, they go hand in hand. You know, it's
Absolutely.
really about
Completely agree.
managing people. So, and that's the amazing thing about your story is that you started off from there. Now you're going into commercial
Yes. Yeah.
development.
Yeah.
So you're going to turn it from like just like a commercial unit
Yeah.
into
So from an
residential.
office into two four bed houses. Yeah. So I'm
Fantastic.
scared, but
London,
yeah,
where?
we've got to do it. It's got to be
Where
done.
is it going to be? Like,
Dartford.
sorry?
Dartford. Dartford.
But oh, amazing, amazing. Well, all the best for
Thank you so
sure.
much. Thank you so
Keep
much.
sharing
Thank you for
about your
having me.
journey and watching it, and
Thank you.
definitely looking forward to having you on the show again in the
Yes,
future.
100%. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
TJ.
Speak to you soon.